You were doing something or said something, and then your husband turned around and says, "You're not treating yourself like you're a friend."
Well, he said, you don't treat my best friend like that,
Okay,
is
yeah.
what he said. And it really stopped me in my tracks because I thought, if I'm his best friend, why am I not my best friend? Right? I am going to be with me 24/7, every second of my life until I die. Do I want to be with somebody who's my enemy? Do I want to be with somebody who's bad mouthing me all the time and telling me I'm not good enough and telling me I, made all these mistakes and, you're not this and you're not that. And, oh my gosh, I can't believe, whatever. It's like, that's not the kind of friend I want. So it really, I mean, not that I hadn't worked on this in the past already, but that particular statement from him was very eye-opening. And I really make a concerted effort to be kind to myself, to forgive myself of my, foibles and whatever. I am perfect in my imperfection, right? And I'm standing by that.
I think the thing is, if you sit down, you really think about these really close friends. And I was interviewing someone, she's going to be on the show coming up soon. And they called it being big friends, not necessarily best friends forever, that kind of thing. But just you have this friend that you share everything with. And that's got to be you too. But the core of it is this: if you thought about just a really good friend, and more than likely, if you've been friends with them for a while, at some point or another, they said something, they did something that upset you, and you're still friends.
Yes.
And you don't sit there every day and say, well, I remember that time they did this, and they always do that, and they never do this. And all those words, the words we really shouldn't use: never, always, can't,
right.
Won't, those things. When you break it down, if you just took a moment and says, well, okay, this is my best friend because he listens to me.
Mm-hmm.
He's my best friend because I know if I'm in trouble, I can always rely on them to look after my best interest and the best interest of my family. And so you look at those characteristics of what you love about your best friends, and then you turn to yourself and you look in the mirror and say, okay, I know you'll always have my best interests at hand. I know you'll always take care of my family. I know you're always going to be there for me, and you're always going to listen to me because you don't have a choice. If I want to talk to you, you're going to listen. But if we started using the right words, the way that we would talk to our friends, and those inner movies you talked about, if they were directed by our best friend,
yes,
they wouldn't go as bad as they might seem to go. So I just really like the concept of taking that step back and saying, is this how I would treat a friend?
right. And when we treat ourselves well, when we have a positive relationship with ourselves, we do other things to take care of ourselves. So who wants to take care of their enemy? It's like, if you're treating yourself bad, it's like healthy behavior doesn't come from that. Behavior that's of self-care and of kindness comes from a kind relationship.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the ways you kind of get there is having that honest conversation with yourself and say, okay, what are the words I'm using? What is my inner dialogue? How often is it positive? How often is it negative? In some cases, I think that RAIN model that you talked about earlier would be a great, okay, why did I just call myself an asshole? Why did I do that? Why did I do that? And then you sit down and say, okay, well, what was the situation? And you recognize it, you allow it and say, okay, yeah, I made a mistake. And then you forgive yourself. And then you're in a position to move forward and nurture
Yeah.
the relationship and say, okay, I'm not always this way. I don't always do that. I just need to do it less, and I need to be kind to myself. And that's, I've learned. And so,
Yeah.
again, the emotional part of it and the feelings part of it is hard. But I think being your best friend first is actually a really good way to kind of put that into practice on a day-to-day basis.